Welcome everyone to the show. Please welcome my guest, Ray Ramos, otherwise known as Happy Harry Hard-On, writer and creator of the Cryptidnals. Ray, what's up, man?
What's going on, Julius? Thank you for having me. I know we've been like chasing each other around trying to get
Yeah.
this done, and I do apologize for that, but here we are.
Yeah, no, it's all good, man. It's like I said, it wasn't a big deal to get you. It's just more like when you can, when you can, and today you can. And so today we decided to pull the trigger and get this thing down. How you doing today, by the way?
Pretty good. I do apologize. I am off camera right now. I am feeling a little bit greasy for some reason. It's the humidity in El Paso right now. It's raining as we speak. It's thundering, and the rain's coming down. I don't know if it's still coming down actually, but yeah, it is. It's still coming down, and it just like the swamp coolers have no effect, man. And we're just like, ugh,
So it's
miserable.
like
So
muggy and uncomfortable right
yes,
now.
very muggy, very uncomfortable. So I moved over here to the other chair so I wouldn't have to sit in front of the fan. Oh, there it is. So I wouldn't have to sit in front of the fan and have the fan in the microphone microwave. What the fuck am I saying? Anyway, um, sorry, it was a long night, man. I went out last night and played D&D and stuff, and
Oh,
yeah,
nice,
that's
nice.
my version. Yeah, thanks. Serena's making
What's that?
fun of me. She's calling me a loser, but
Oh.
yeah, it was
Did you
fun.
play
It was
with your
cool.
friends or at a comic book store? Where exactly did you play D&D at?
We play at my buddy's house. He's actually made his own. Doesn't everybody do that at one point in time? They make their own version of D&D.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what he did. It's more sci-fi based. It's very interesting.
Oh, sci-fi based.
I
Interesting.
maybe
Yeah.
we can have him on the show at some point in time when he wants to introduce his book, or rather his role playing book. But yeah, we're playing his game, and we were like on a year hiatus because of COVID. So we came back
Mm.
last night, and everybody showed up. We were having a good time, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Were you always a big D&D? When would you start playing D&D? Since you were a kid,
Oh
or?
man, I dabbled in it when I was a kid. Uh, it was like the tail end of the Satanic Panic back in
Oh,
the '80s,
yeah, that's right.
and I don't know, like the whole Stranger Things thing. But I really didn't get into it until like the mid '90s is when I really got into it
Oh,
because
okay.
I would go to community college and hang out with a bunch of poets, and they were nerds and they were into pop culture and they played D&D. So I started playing D&D with them, and I just really got into it, and it's been on and off since then.
Poetry. You mentioned poetry right now. So
Yeah. hmm
was that something that you've always when you started writing, was that always that interested you, was writing poetry, or did that come later in life when you hit college or high school? What was it that prompted you to want to write poetry?
The thing about poetry was that was I officially, that was my first love. That was my first,
Oh, okay.
I guess, introduction into writing and reading and all this other stuff. And it started very simple, with like, Dr. Seuss and stuff like that, and Shel Silverstein, all the stuff that we grew up on like as kids. And as I grew up, I honestly, it's gonna sound very, very cliche, but I didn't have a lot of friends. Books were my friends, and the library was my sanctuary, all that other stuff.
Right, right.
And to me, English was not my first language. It was actually Spanish. Spanish was my first language
Oh,
when I
interesting.
started
Okay.
going to school in elementary school, and it was very difficult for me to start learning English. And the thing
Mm,
was that my parents, like, they sat me down and they told me that you need to master one of them. You can't master both, because
mm,
there's no way that you're going to be able to do that here in this atmosphere, because we can talk Spanish to you all day long, but when you go out into the real world, it's not going to help you as much as English will. So
right.
you need to speak English as well as you possibly can, and as perfectly as you can. And that kind of like, okay, cool. And my parents would still speak Spanish to me at home, but after many years it became kind of like this, I don't know if you want to call patchwork of correct Spanish, and
Mm,
just whatever you want to call it, like um, slang and stuff like that. And English was the one that I had to learn. In my mind, I was like, I had to learn English. I had to learn English. And the easiest way for me to learn English was to read books. And the easiest books to read were, of course, like Dr. Seuss and all
Right.
these poetry books, these nonsense books. And that kind of just like ignited a flame inside of me that I just continued reading poetry. And poetry was very approachable for me because it would paint pictures in your head, and you didn't have to have like chapters and chapters of story. You just have
Right.
the image, and you can make up your own story from that one image. And I think that in itself is what drew me to comics in the end, because it's pretty much the same thing. Like, you don't have to read volumes and volumes of a comic to realize that this guy's the hero, this guy's the bad guy, and
Right.
because of
Yeah.
these images that you're looking at, there's going to be some sort of like a fight or a complication or whatever you
Right.
want to call it. Mhm.
Wow. So that's interesting. So then poetry led you to comics. Now, I know you said, it started when you were a child, when you started reading poetry. So how did that eventually lead to picking up a comic book, or being exposed to comics? What was
When
it?
I
What
would
was the road, I guess, that took you there?
when I would read poetry in my head, it was very dramatic. Um, the one rule that I've learned, or rather, the one thing that I've learned, is never listen to poets read their own poetry, because it will always disappoint you. It's always better in your head when you read someone else's poetry. It's always better in your head, and it's sad because it's
Right.
true, man. Like, a lot of poets that I grew up reading, once I got into like my teenage years and started listening to them read it, it was just very disappointing because they didn't. It wasn't the same. They didn't have the same gravitas, or whatever you want to call it, that
Right. Yeah.
was in my head.
Interesting.
hmm So that kind of like was the same thing with comics, because like there was a drama to it. There was some sort of like elocution. There was like all these like rises and falls when you would read poetry. And that's the same way with a comic. The way that I see it, there's beats in the comic, and the comic
Right.
starts off and it slowly grows to like a point where it climaxes, and then after that it just falls, and then the book ends. This is just a single. I'm talking about like single issue books, whatever, or story arcs or whatever. But that's the way that I view it. And poetry to me translated very easily to comics, and vice versa. And that all started with X-Men, man. Like, when I started reading X-Men, that was the thing for me. Like, Claremont, the way that he would shape his stories were very poetic. Like, and not only that, but he would also infuse his stories with these like little Easter eggs to literature that I
Mm.
was like very intrigued with, because, like I said, growing up, I would read a lot of books, I would read a lot of poetry, and I was familiar with a lot of these great books that this writer would allude to or would call back to. And if you weren't well read, I guess, as far as literature was concerned, it was just something cool. He didn't make it like
Mm.
to a point where it's like, oh my god, he just added it for like a little bit of seasoning. But if you delve deep and you started like really like doing your research, and you went back and started like excavating, I guess, these
Right.
little tidbits of literature that he would throw in there in the books, it was really, really satisfying, because the dude was really well read. Like, he knew his stuff. He knows his stuff. He's still around. So that was intriguing to me, because he wrote in a way that he infused literature and poetry and all this other drama that I had grown up reading into comics, and the characters reflected that as well. Wolverine, Cyclops, Professor X, Jean Grey, all these guys, all these characters had this drama. And of course, everybody says that they're novelas. After
Right.
a while, they're like just soap operas and stuff.
I mean, they
And
kind of are, to some extent.
yeah, exactly. And I think that intrigued us as well as kids, because that was our escape. Once again, it comes back to the
Mm.
whole escapism, and the cliche of not having any friends and just having books and blah blah blah.
Right.
So that was kind of like our go-to.
How old were you when you first picked up an X-Men comic book? Like,
The first time that I read an X-Men comic book was off of the spinner rack at a 7-Eleven. That was the first
nice.
X-Men I ever bought. I had run into comics before that, but I
Right.
had never bought my own. Like, the first comic that I ever found, was in a trash can, like at the middle school. that I
Nice.
went to, and it was an Amazing Spider-Man issue, and it was that one issue. I don't know if you remember, and I know that I think Ron Friends drew it, but it's during the symbiote war, whatever you want to call it, and the issue is Peter Parker being torn apart by the spider suits, by the Spider-Man spider
Oh, cool.
suit and by the black the spider suit.
Yeah.
I found it like thrown away in the trash can, and I kept it, and it was all stained and tiznado and
Right.
shit, whatever. But still, it was like, holy shit, I got a comic. It was free. I didn't have to buy it because I was a kid. I didn't have any money.
Right.
But the first time that I actually bought a book with my own money was X-Men 242, the fucking
Nice.
Inferno issue. And it's interesting because a lot of friends that I grew up with, they had the same experience. That issue for some reason is very key to a lot of the people that I grew up with, that started creating comics. And it's the first page that got me. You open the page and it's Wolverine making out with Jean Grey. That's a big splash page that Silvestri drew, and I was like, "Holy shit, man! What's going on here? Who is this guy? Why is he kissing this redhead? What, And
Right.
that's usually that's where the love affair with redhead starts for all these dudes, like when we're really young.
Right.
But that was it. That was the first X-Men comic that I bought. 242, the Inferno issue.
Is it safe to say that that issue was the one that I guess inspired you to want to write for comics, or was that another book that you came across to later down the line that inspired you to write for comics? So I guess my next question would be, which book was, if it's not the 242 issue, which other comic book was the one that really prompted you to be like, you know what, if I can do this, if I just put my mind to it, I know I can do this. What was it? What was that one issue?
Okay, so 242, X-Men 242 introduced me to pretty much the X-Men, introduced me to Marvel, and from there, I started going back, like
Mm,
checking out the past issues and discovering the
right.
origins of the X-Men, all that other stuff. But it really didn't spark in me to write them just yet. What did it for me, that started me like wanting to write comics, was Faust #4
Interesting.
by
Okay.
David Quinn and Tim Vigil. Faust #4. And the reason for that being is because up to that point I had played it safe. I was into Marvel, I was into DC,
Right.
um, and I knew the histories, I knew the canon, all that stuff, all the stuff that had gone on before, because I did my research and I would go to the library, and I would find comics like at the swap and all this other stuff. But it wasn't until Faust #4 that I decided, holy shit, you know what? I think I can do this. And the reason for that being was because Faust, if you guys are familiar with it, is like one of the most beautifully horrible comic books that has ever existed. The artwork is beautiful, but the content, the story, is just deranged, man. It's fucking awesome. It's beautiful. Some
Oh,
dude that runs around with fucking blades like Wolverine, with a raging heart on, killing people, cutting them up into pieces, and like it was fucked up. Like honestly, it was fucked up. And I was like, man, if this can be done, I can do anything. I can do anything as
right.
far as comics is concerned. And that's what got me going. That's what got me going as far as um writing, as far as writing comics. And the other beautiful thing about that book is it's written very, very poetically, and has a lot of prose in it. It has a lot of allusions to like pop culture. And
Okay.
I always thought that Quinn is one of the most underrated writers that has existed, because without Quinn, like, I would have never realized what I could do in comics, through Faust #4.
How old were you when you discovered that comic?
Man, I don't want to age gauge me here, man. Thanks a
Well,
lot,
I mean,
Julius,
you
for
have to tell me
outing
how old you
me
are
and shit,
now. Just
man.
tell me how old you were when you first got your hands on the book.
I was 14.
Oh, 14. Oh, wow. That's
I
a
was
young age
14.
then. So that
Hmm.
book prompted you, well, not prompted you, but I guess it opened your mind in terms of, wow, you really can do whatever you want in comics. Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing holding you back in making something like, as you said, horrific as Faust #4.
Exactly, but not just horrific, but beautiful. I
Beautifully
think
okay. How
that's
about beautifully horrific? How about that?
beautifully horrific. And there's actually there's a poem by Rilke, and there's a prompt in the poem that says, in order to know true beauty, you must first experience true horror. And I think
Interesting.
that has stuck with me for a very long time as well, because I mean, the both go hand in hand if you really look at it. Because
Yeah.
to be in the presence of true beauty would be to experience horror like beyond belief. Because holy shit, man, like that's that you can't get any more than that. You can't get any more pure than that.
Awesome. So it's safe to say that Faust had a major influence on you for Cryptidnals, your first ever published book, and successfully crowdfunded, by the way. Did that have
Thank you,
an
sir.
influence on Cryptidnals?
Yes, it did. Faust had a big influence on Cryptonolds. Sandman, Neil Gaiman's Sandman had a big
Okay.
influence on Cryptonolds as well. Um, those type of books, those type of stories were the ones were like the basis for it. And also my own experiences growing up. Of course, I've always talked about this.
Yeah.
The occult stuff that I've experienced, the paranormal stuff. That also it's an outlet to channel all the stuff that I've witnessed and all the stuff that I've learned and gathered knowledge from to to come out and do something with it rather than just sitting there fucking just doing nothing other than remembering me or reminding me of all these bad things that have happened.
Right. For those of you who don't know, by the way, Cryptidnals was launched on Indiegogo, and he successfully funded the book, and their backers have received their book. And if you guys missed out on that one, uh, they're gonna launch a second chance campaign. Is that right?
Yes, sir. The second chance campaign is
There
coming
you
at
go.
the end of the summer or in the middle, somewhere in the summer.
So,
Before the summer is over, it's going to be relaunched and stuff. So it should
so
be.
if you guys missed out on that book, because I know some of you are probably listening and don't know who Ray Ramos is, you don't know what Cryptidnals is about. But if you do um, are interested, or if your interest has peaked since since we're talking about this project, the Cryptidnals, his Ray's Twitter handle is on the description below. So if I'll give him a follow, so that way you can find out exactly what Cryptidnals is all about. And if you're interested, if you're into cryptids, if you're into X-Men, or any kind of action supernatural comics, then Cryptidnals is right up your alley. So I highly suggest you give him a follow on Twitter and subscribe to the 656 Comics YouTube channel, because then they'll probably more likely announce it there. It has success in terms of like the readers, right? Readers responded well to it from what you
We have not
gather.
received like a single bad comment, which
There you
is
go.
really bizarre. Like
There you go.
I'm waiting for the bad stuff to roll in, and nothing's happened yet. Everybody just loves it. Everybody loves the presentation. Everybody loves the story, the art, everything about it. And of course, you had something to do with that because you were editor on it as well. So you got to see it firsthand.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and we were trying to do something that's never been done before, something fresh, something a new take on superheroes, but not so much superheroes. It was
Right.
more like horror based and stuff. So
Yes, yes, very well. It was well presented. It was well executed, and yeah, if you guys are looking for something fresh, then definitely Cryptidnals is right up your alley. You definitely need to check that one out. My next question to you, Ray, is why comics and not, say, poetry or TV or film? Why comic books? Why is the medium, the comic book medium, your choice to express yourself as a writer?
like to me, I guess, I mean, poetry is always going to be there. I just haven't gotten around or come back around to writing more of it. As far as everything else, like I know how to write scripts. I know how to write all that stuff for like presentation as far as comics is, or rather TV is concerned. But
Mhm.
comics is like the entry, I guess, into all of this, because you can base everything off of it. You can turn it into anything. If you can write a comic book script, you can do storyboards off of it. You can shoot a film off of it. All that stuff. And not only that, but when you write a comic, you don't have a budget where you're constrained by oh man, I gotta take time out to shoot this one a
Right.
scene, or I have to have money for props and all sort of stuff. When if you find that perfect artist, they can do all that for you. At a fraction of the cost. You just have to pay the artist in order to
Right.
be able to do that if he's capable. And I think that's what's very alluring, as far as writers are concerned, when they try their hand at writing comics. Uh, what was I going to say about that? There was
Well,
an
for you,
example.
what's alluring for you when it comes to writing comics? Is
It's
it just the fact that you could just hire a good artist to draw what you write on paper? Is that really the only reason? There's no other
no,
reason
I
than
mean,
that?
it's not the only reason, but it's more approachable for me, I
Ah,
guess you
okay.
could say.
Yeah.
Um, Not only that, but just in during the day, just thinking about what you're going to write or how you're going to present it, you get these images in your head that are a lot easier to, I don't know if you want to say, like, deal with or to present. Yeah, I guess present would be the appropriate word, than shooting a film, because you got to start
Mm,
somewhere, right? Like if you're going to
right.
shoot a film and during the day you have these scenes in your head, you got to think of who you would hire as far as an actor is concerned, all this other
Right.
stuff. But
Yeah.
when you're doing comics and you're writing it in your head, you have everything already done, and it's just a matter of putting it on paper and have someone pick it up and draw it. Um, and that's the thing too. Like you don't have to worry about going out and shooting on certain days when the sun is just right because you want a
Right.
certain scene or you want a
That's
certain
true.
atmosphere and stuff like that. You can do that all on paper, and it facilitates itself a lot easier to the story that you're trying to convey, to the reader, or to whoever's like looking at the art as well. Because I mean, first and foremost, comics is going to be a visual form.
Right.
Everybody looks at it because of the art. Oh my god, that art is awesome. Oh my god, that cover, the colors, all that stuff. The story comes next after that, and it kind of sucks because writers like us, we're very passionate about what we do. We're very passionate about what we write,
Right.
and we
Yeah.
want that instant gratification of somebody picking up our comic and saying, "This is the best comic I've ever read." Not the best comic I've ever seen, just the
Right.
best comic I've ever read.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what gets us, man, and that's what gets me too. Like waiting for the Cryptidnals to come out, and then waiting even longer for people to get it, and then waiting again for people to respond to it and tell you, like, yeah, the art is awesome. Oh, the presentation is great. I love what you guys included. Okay, what about the story? Well, hold
Right.
on. Let me talk about the art first. And I'm like, no, no, no. And but at the same time, it's very satisfying to know that you contributed to a part of the whole, and you've actually pulled your weight when it comes to
Absolutely.
a comic, um, because the artist needs to have a good script in order to get your vision onto paper exactly like you want it. And I think that's when it comes together and you look at it and you're like, shit, that's what I wrote. That's exactly what I wrote. That's very satisfying. That's extremely satisfying.
Well said. Well said. I don't think I have anything else to add to that. So my next question is indie forever, or if the opportunity presented itself, would you jump on Marvel or DC to write something for them if they came knocking at your door?
First and foremost will always, like, the good stuff will be mine. Like I will always hold on to the good stuff. But just because you're not going to the party, it's not nice to be invited, like if
Right.
Marvel or DC were to show up and be like, hey, would you write in this villain issue? Sure, I've always wanted to write a Batman story and show you exactly how Batman should be written. But I'm not gonna give you the good stuff. I'm gonna give you
Right.
the all right stuff that you're still gonna think is fucking fantastic, but the good stuff stays with me. So yeah, I'm gonna say indie forever. If the price is right, I'll write something for Marvel or DC. But for now, yeah, I'm sticking with indie now.
Who is your dream artist to work with, dead or alive? So you can give me a few artists who are unfortunately no longer with us, or you could give me and you could give me um, an artist who's alive today that you would love to work with and actually do a book with. So we'll start with the deceased artist. Which deceased artist would you have loved to work with if you had the opportunity to
Damn,
do
the
so?
deceased artist. That one's fucking. That's
You just
hard.
pick one or two. How about that? One or two of that come off the top of your head.
Um, and this is kind of in the same vein, I guess you could say, but Bernie Wrightson.
Okay, that's a good
Bernie
choice.
Wrightson for sure, and Wally Wood. Wally
Wally
Wood,
Wood,
dude,
interesting.
yeah, like his stuff, his story, like his life. Holy shit, dude! But his art, my God, his art speaks for itself. He was way ahead of his time.
Yeah, he was. He was. I have the artist edition that IDW published of Wally
Oh
Wood's
man,
art, and it's freaking fantastic to see it in the what 11 by 17, right? 11 by 17 size.
yes, hmm,
Yeah. Oh, glorious, man. I love it. It's one of my prized possessions. And the only one I regret not getting was the Jim Steranko
oh,
IDW
fucking,
artist
I've met
edition.
Steranko, man. He's a dude.
Oh, I
He's a
know,
man's
dude.
man.
Yeah.
Had the opportunity to meet Steranko and Tim Sale at the same
Nice.
time.
Oh, nice.
I was at Comic Con and we were talking to Steranko. My friend and I, we were just like starstruck. We're like all fanboys talking to him, and the dude always dresses the same. Dude, he's got a sports coat and
Yeah.
his turtleneck and his shades, and his
Yeah.
hair's all leaned back.
He looks fabulous every time he walks out of his house.
Yes, dude, like he looks like he's a fucking rock star. And we're talking to him, and some dude is walking by, like real, like yeah, la la, he's just walking by, and Steranko pauses. He looks at us like, hold on, gentlemen. He turns around like, hey, and the guy stops and turns. He's like, what? You're gonna walk by and not say hi to me? You're not gonna shake my hand? And he turns around, and I see the guy, and it's Tim Sale.
Oh,
And
no way.
Steranko's calling him out. And Tim Sale walks over to the table. He's like, hey, how are you, Jim? And Steranko grabs him by the hand, dude, to shake it and pulls him in. This guy, and I mean, you never met Steranko, so he's not a big guy, but he's hefty. He's built. He used to be an escape
Wow.
artist and shit, right?
Yeah, yeah, I remember that.
Um,
That's right. I read about that.
he grabs him and pulls him like over the table practically. Tim Sale like loses his balance, like drops the stuff that he was like holding onto the table, and he shakes Stranko's hand. He's like, I'm sorry, Jim, I didn't see you. He's like, I'm not that hard to miss, but it's good seeing you. And when you get a chance, you come back around because we need to talk. And like he let him go. And I was like, oh my God, that's Tim Sale. And Tim Sale's like looking at us like, hey, what's up, guys? And I'm like, hey, good to meet you, sir. And he took off too, man. But it was a twofer. It was a twofer.
Who, which artist alive would you like to work
Oh,
with? You gave us Bill Ryston. You gave us Wally Wood, which was great choices. Who alive would you want to work with? That
well,
you dream.
besides Dario, because I already
Oh, of
worked with
course. Yeah.
Dario. Um, shit, man, Tim Vigil. Fuck, dude. Like
Tim Vigil.
just Tim Vigil, just to get him to draw something like bloody and gory would be fucking awesome. Like something that I wrote bloody and gory. Because that guy, I don't know if you follow him or not. Like he's mostly on Facebook, but he like posts stuff up. He's like constantly getting like banned for the stuff that he's
Oh,
posting
really?
his own artwork. Like yeah, this is a picture I drew, but Facebook took it down because it has nuns in it. And then you look at it, and I'm like, yeah, they're nuns, but they shouldn't be doing the things that they're doing in this image. You know,
Right.
so yeah, and it would be Vigil, man. The like number one choice after Dario, of course, would be Vigil. Um, damn, and who else living?
One more. One more.
One more. Shit, man. Who do I really like? I enjoy Quietly's work, but he takes for freaking ever to
Oh
draw.
yeah. I mean, look at the amount of detail he adds. I mean, compared to Dario, obviously Dario has his own style, his own approach.
Hmm.
But quietly, man, he's just like a whole different level of
That guy, Jeff Darrow,
approaching
as well.
comics. Jeff
Jeff
Darrow,
Darrow's
yeah.
a badass. Um, but yeah, those are mostly the guys that I enjoy right there.
Surprisingly, I thought you were going to choose. I hope I get his name right. Jose Juan Rip or Ripe.
Oh yes, I know him. I've met him a few times as well. A friend of mine actually did a book with him
Oh,
way
nice.
back in the
For
day.
Avatar.
Back in the
For
no, no,
Avatar, or
no. This was
oh,
a indie book
okay.
when Rip was barely starting. My friend, who actually just released another book, it's called Emo Girl by Julian Lawler. Uh, he actually hired Rip to draw. I think two of his issues, and I was, oh man, I cannot remember what it was called, but I have that book somewhere around here. but I met him, and really, really cool guy too, man. His stuff is very Darrow-ish. The stuff that he did on
Yeah.
RoboCop for
Yeah.
Avatar was fucking awesome, man.
I know, dude.
Um,
That guy's a beast, dude. He's a
hell
straight up
yes,
beast.
dude. Jason, and then that Jason Barrows also during the Avatar
Oh,
period. Jason Barrows was there
yes.
too.
Jason
His
Burrows
stuff.
is.
There was a book that he did with Warren Ellis called Scars. I don't know if you ever read that book or not.
I didn't read that one. No, I think he drew an Alan Moore book, and that was
Yes,
the
he
one
was
I
drawing the
picked up.
courtyard. I
I
think.
think
I
that was
don't remember.
Courtyard. Yeah, it was the Courtyard.
hmm when Alamore was like hard up for cash and he was working with Avatar too.
He was
He
harder for
got-
cash. How do you know he was harder for cash?
Dude, that guy is all about the money, man. That's all he cares about. You don't care. Have you heard the Liefeld? They were interviewing Liefeld. What's his name? The kayfabe guys.
Oh no,
And
I haven't seen that one yet. I haven't seen that one
you
yet.
have to
No.
watch that one, the one where they're interviewing Liefeld, and Liefeld's talking about working with Alan Moore. And of course, I'm just like, not so much quoting, but just remembering from what I remember. Me and Oliver were watching it when they were over here one time. But yeah, that dude, like, great writer, but he's shisty, dude. You gotta watch him. He's shisty because Liefeld's talking about how he was paying Alan Moore like tens of thousands of dollars to write Supreme, and Supreme was winning all these awards, and it was fucking fantastic and all this other stuff. But then there came a time when Liefeld just couldn't afford him anymore. You know,
Hmm.
not only that, but Alan Moore was tapped to do something else. He was gonna write something else, but he wanted to continue getting those fat checks from fucking Liefeld. So he told Liefeld, like, you know what? I want to continue writing Supreme. I can't do the British accent, but he's all like, I want to continue writing Supreme, but unfortunately, I can't. But I have my friend who's my neighbor, and he taught me everything that I know. Everything that I know, and he writes exactly like me, and I want him to continue writing Supreme for you, and you just keep paying him, and it's like you're paying me because basically
Oh
he's the
my
same.
god,
He's the
dude.
same person as I am because it's the same fucking story. And life feels like what? Yeah, and his name is Robert Moore. That's his name. He has the same last name as me, but we're not related.
Oh
So
goodness
life was
gracious.
like, what the hell's going on? And of course, I'm just remembering from what I heard. But if you go
Yeah.
back and you listen to that interview, it's freaking hilarious because Liefeld is doing the accent and everything, man. So yeah, Pinchy Alan Moore, dude, you gotta watch that guy, man. Watch him. Without.
Again, when unlike Bob Kane, as we discussed earlier, Alan Moore proved himself not in so much of creating new characters. I mean, he did create John Constantine, which is still one of the most successful characters that's ever come out of modern comics, right?
hmm
Who else did he create that people still use to this day? Other than the Watchmen stuff,
Man, but
I
even
think
then, the Watchmen
I think
stuff was
Constantine,
just
right? Constantine was the only one, right?
Constantine's the
Because
only one, but the
yeah,
Watchmen stuff was just rehashes of the Timely character, or what was it,
yeah,
the
right,
the
right, of
Fawcett
course, of course.
characters. But
Well, but
that's
still,
that's
he came on Swamp Thing when Swamp Thing was selling about 15 to 20,000 copies, right?
hmm
Units per whatever they printed, and then it went after a few months of him writing that, it went from 10,000 to like 70 and 80,000 and up to like the hundred thousands. That's again that goes right into your head, right? That ego, that glory, just like a heroin junkie. You just give me more hits. So I could understand why he would demand so much money from Rob Liefeld, but yeah, I'll have to say that's ridiculous that he expected him to pay his neighbor the same amount of money, and it's like, no, dude,
dude,
I'm paying for the name quality. Your name, it's what sells. The books, Alan Moore on the comic book sells, right? It
pretty
makes money.
much.
So
And
to
that's
have it to
that's the
replace him with
thing.
Alan Moore's neighbor,
Robert Moore.
Robert Moore. Can you imagine?
Dude, it was hilarious, man. But at the
Oh
same time,
man.
I've read a lot of stuff about this dude, about this cat, and he's like done some stuff that's really fucked up, man. As far as the artists that he's worked with,
Mm.
he's fucking. I don't want to go into it or nothing, but he's a dick, dude. Like honestly, man. Like if you do the research and you start like digging, you'll start finding out all this stuff about him, and it's sad at the same time. It's like fucked up, but I mean, hey, he's a pirate. He's a fucking wizard pirate.
He's a
So
wizard, man. He's a
whatever.
magician.
He's a magician to it.
He's a magician, so I guess it's expected, right?
It's expected. Chica. No
All
shit,
right.
man.
So my next question: what would you say is the most difficult obstacle an indie comic book writer faces when making comics?
I think like well, as far as writing it, if you're sure about yourself and you're confident, that's that's good. That's what you should have. But if you get caught up in your own smug, is which I call it, like
Mhm.
if you start believing your own bullshit, that's where the issue that's the issue right there. If you start like coming at people and telling them, yeah, I'm the best, and all this other stuff,
Right.
and saying, I'm the there's one dude that I've heard about. I'm not gonna mention names, but I'm sure you'll figure it out. That he's the best sci-fi writer that's ever existed, and he's been on Twitter a few times. He's been talking a lot of trash about people,
Right.
but it's that type of stuff, that type of attitude. It's good to be confident. Don't get me wrong. It's fucking fantastic because you know your stuff and you believe in your brand, and you want to talk about your stuff. You don't want to talk about other people's stuff. You want to talk about your stuff. But at the same time, to be humble about it,
Mm.
to be able to listen to other people's opinions and to be able to listen to other people's ideas and not be a dick about it, I think that's the hardest part. That's the hardest part because when it comes
Mm.
to indie comics, who's like your biggest fan? You yourself. That's it.
Right.
So you got to push yourself, but at the same time, you don't want to be a dick to everybody else that likes your stuff and be like, yeah, I know, I'm fucking badass. And that's a hard lesson to learn, my friend. I'll tell you that right now because when I first started writing, I thought I was hot shit. I thought I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm the best, especially with poetry. Like, fuck yeah, I'm the best. And that got me into a lot of trouble, actually.
I would imagine. I
It
would
got me
imagine
into a
it
lot of
did.
trouble, not just like, how can I put it? Like, spiritually, it got me into a lot of trouble. If you listen to my Substack, you'll know what I'm talking about. But
Okay.
that's the thing, man. Like to remain humble and be able to appreciate other people's ideas, but at the same time be confident in your own work. It's a very like I don't want to say a narrow road, but it's tough. It's very very tough to do that.
So okay, so you're the biggest obstacle an indie comic book writer faces is their arrogance. Is that
Their
what you're
arrogance,
essentially?
yeah, their own ego.
Their
That
own
would
ego.
be it.
Oh, that's a good answer. That's a unique answer. I wasn't expecting that kind of answer, to be honest with you. But that's a good one. To be humble is the most difficult task a human being faces in life, in my opinion.
Yes, exactly, sir.
So my final question um, would be: with all of the social media avenues available today, do indie comic book writers have it better and easier today than we did, say, 10 years ago, 10, 20 years ago?
I have it. They have it easier to be able to produce their own work,
Mm.
but it's harder to be heard because there's so many of us. There's
Ah,
so many
right.
writers out there that like, oh, look at my stuff, look at my stuff, and of course, it comes back to the whole visual medium of comics. Like you're gonna notice an artist before you notice a writer,
Right.
so it's even more difficult to stand out amongst the masses of writers that are doing indies right now with a unique idea, with something, with a new perspective, and be heard. I think it's easier to get out there, but it's harder to be seen. If that makes sense, I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know.
no, that makes total sense. That's actually well put. Yeah, that's a good
And not
answer.
only that, but you got to keep working at it like every day, constantly. You have to, because that's another thing too. Like you got to remain relevant. You got to be in. It's weird because you're not famous, but you got to stay in the public's eye, in your
Right.
audience's eye, in order to remain relevant. Because if not, then people just move on to something else, and you're kind of lost in the crowd, which kind of sucks. But I mean, if you enjoy what you do, if you have a passion for what you do, then it shouldn't be difficult. It shouldn't be a task, and it shouldn't be a major undertaking to be able to do that.
So where
Cool.
can the audience find you, Ray? Which platforms are you on? Are you on Twitter, YouTube? You mentioned Substack, so I know you have a Substack. So where can they find you? if they
You
wanted to
can
follow
look
you?
for Cryptidnals on all the major platforms: Twitter, Substack, TikTok, especially. Actually, I've been kind of slacking on TikTok, but TikTok has a lot of stuff that I've done. Facebook, Instagram. There's hints of it everywhere. Of course, if you follow 6x6 Comics, all of us, are under that banner. That's the publisher that publishes the Cryptidnals. So you can follow us there. And if you type in 6x6 Comics or the Cryptidnals, you'll find us. Just go into your search engine, you'll be able to locate us.
And remember, guys, Cryptidnals Second Chance campaign will be coming up hopefully by the end of the summer. So keep your eye out on that, because that is a fine looking book and the story is solid. It feels like you're reading an old 90s X-Men comic. At least for me, it was when I read it. So if you guys are looking for something like that, definitely give Ray a follow and just keep track of of his announcements, because once it comes and you miss out on the second chance, then you're not going to get another chance, maybe until, I don't know, until he decides to give you a third chance. But who knows? Who knows if he'll do that even?
And it's not even up to me anymore. It's up to Oliver, because
There you go.
we
It's
all
up to
know.
Oli, and we all know how Oli is.
Yeah, exactly.
So, with that said, guys, thank you for joining us. Give Ray a follow, and if you want more of this kind of video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, because I do plan on interviewing more writers. This is a writer-friendly show, and not to knock the artists in the comic book field, because obviously without the artists there would be no comic book industry. However, without any writers, there wouldn't be a sustained comic book industry, because the writings will keep the readers coming back for more. The I guess you could say, the artist brings the dancers to do the dance, right? But the DJ, i.e., the writer, keeps them there with the music they play. So
That's right.
this is a writer friendly channel. So Ray is a writer. He does not draw. I do not draw. We just write comics because we're passionate about it. We love making comics. It's our chosen profession because, like you mentioned earlier, Ray, it's approachable. It's a lot more approachable, and there's a lot more you can do. You just got to find the right artist to do it. So,
Yes, sir.
with that said, guys, again, have a good weekend, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Thank you, guys.